Whether we like it or not, we all have roles to play in our lives. As a spouse, as a parent, as a friend, as an employee, as a neighbor, even as a booktuber. We all have roles to play. Hello, welcome to my channel. Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and today I'm doing the BookTuber Role Tag, which was created by Allison Anointed. I was tagged by Randy Ray, the literate Texan, and I think I may have been tagged by a few other persons. So I really need to get around to doing this tag. It is getting rather popular at this point. This is what Allison says about her tag. An original tag investigating what role booktubers play in the literary world, inspired by the shuttering of Book World, the Washington Post book review, and the controversy around the media campaign promoting Lost Lambs by Madeline Cash. I remember the Washington Post book world when I was young, in my 20s. I was living in and around the Washington, D.C. area, and every Sunday I went out to buy the Washington Post from those little newspaper kiosks that you put a quarter in, or maybe it was $1 for the Sunday edition, which included the book world section. But I would get it every week, and I used to read that section very thoroughly, looking for all the great books that were coming out. And it is rather sad that the Washington Post has gotten rid of the book world section. The Washington Post also used to be one of the best newspapers in the United States. I don't think you can call the Washington Post one of the best newspapers in the United States anymore. They have gone all Trumpy. They got to kiss the bum of Donald Trump, or at least Jeff Bezos does. So the rest of the employees of the Washington Post have to follow through. Sorry for that little political tangent, but it is very sad that the book world has gone away. In any case, this tag has 7 prompts. Prompt number 1, how do you see your role as a booktuber? Examples might include being a critic, a curator, an influencer, an entertainer, an educator, etc. I don't think I am any one of those. I am just a participant, a fellow traveler, as it were. I am a dedicated and loyal reader, and I want to share my love of reading with other readers. I don't claim to have any role of importance there. I'm just saying what I like. I am a friend sitting at the pub, drinking your beer, or maybe at the coffee shop or tea shop with your tea or coffee. I'm just sharing my opinions, and that's all I aspire to be. Nothing more than a participant in the world of reading and sharing what I love. Prompt number 2. Do you have an educational background in literature or literary criticism, either formal or self-directed? If you are comfortable sharing, do you have any other education or professional experience that you would bring to your reviews? I must confess, I studied English literature at the University of Maryland because when I was young in high school, I loved reading, and I thought the best way to become a writer, to become a professional reader, would be to study English literature. I don't think that was actually a correct assessment on my part. I did go to the University of Maryland. I studied my English for my degree. And I don't think that really helped me become a better reader. Universities, colleges, when you study English literature, they're preparing you to work as a teacher, maybe a professor, to study the literature, to pull what's important out of the book so you can write a paper and impress other people in the literary world with your intelligence. But I think it brings you away from the love of reading because you're supposed to study so widely and so much in specific areas that you forget, or at least I forgot, was bringing me to me the love of reading. I was being trained to be a professional. And you don't need to be a professional to love reading. In fact, I think it hinders it, or at least it hindered it for me. When I was in high school, I think I've said I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to write horror. I wanted to write science fiction. And when I got to college, I was taking my writing classes, and one of the professors said to me, "Hey, kid, you're a pretty good writer for a horror writer. Why don't you do something better?" So I tried to do something better, but I don't think that was where my heart was lying when I was young. I did learn to love literature, fancy literature, important literature, but the degree pushed aside the horror, the science fiction. I would later come to love in my life afterwards mystery and crime. And I'm pretty sure that college professor would have pushed me away from that too. So I'm really not happy that I studied English literature. I think I would have been better going into the sciences and just loving literature or fiction or whatever for what it is. After university, I did work for bookstores because, of course, what else are you going to do after you study literature and you're not going into teaching? You work for a bookstore. I started off at Crown Books, where if you paid full price, you didn't buy it at Crown Books. I don't think many people will get that reference, but if you do, you're an old fogey like me. And then after working at Crown Books for a number of years, I switched over to Borders Books. And eventually, I just got tired of working for bookstores. Because working for bookstores, you understand that books are a commodity. They really don't promote the love of reading. At first, Borders Books did try to promote the love of reading in their bookstores, and then they were bought out by Kmart. And once Kmart took control of Borders Books, the book selling really did become a commodity. And I felt like I was just pushing what was popular, not what I liked, not what other people liked, but was what was selling. Now, what was selling may have been what the mass public liked, but it wasn't what I liked. So I'm not even sure that having worked in bookstores increased my love of reading. Prompt number 3. Do you typically do any research on either the book or the author before you review a book? Well, I don't do any research before I read the book, or very rarely will I do research before I read the book. Sometimes, if I'm going to do a dedicated review, I will do a little bit of research on the internet, find out what other people thinking about it, what people thought about it, if it's a really old book, and pull that all together into a cohesive idea. But I don't think that's really important to a review. Prompt number 4. Do you focus your reviews more on the objective qualities of a book or more on your subjective opinion about it? I don't often go into the objective qualities about a book because a book's objective qualities may mean different things to different readers. Some people may say objectively, this is a very well written book, it is very well researched, but some people will not care about the writing style or the historical accuracy of the book. Sometimes when I read historical books, and this is just an aside, I get a little miffed on authors who bring modern sensibilities into their historical characters, because a historical character would not think that way, but modern readers would. So essentially, you are having a modern character in an historical setting, and that does miff me a little bit. That is kind of an objective or say quality of the book, but it's also highly subjective. Does it really matter that it's not historically accurate? Because you're appealing, or the author's trying to appeal to a certain type of reader who wants that modern sensibility in their historical fiction. I think a lot of historical readers would not be happy with the thoughts of people in historical times. But that's just a personal opinion. That is a subjective opinion. But when I do reviews, I'm more into getting the vibe of the book, the essential feeling of the book. What is it like to read this book? Who would generally like it? And the subjective opinions and objective opinions are sort of put on the wayside. Prompt number 5. Have you ever received a free book or advanced reader copy from the author? And if so, did it have any impact on your ability to honestly review the book or on how you felt about it? I have, on a few occasions, received free PDF copies of an ebook to review. The problem is, even though I have this fancy schmancy Kindle Scribe, a PDF version on the book is just a chore to read because the print's so tiny, and because of the formatting issues of PDF files, I can't increase the font size. So even though I have received a couple of free copies for my Kindle Scribe, I was unable to finish the book because of the formatting issues. I suppose I could have broken the format out of the PDF and read it in a more friendly format on my Kindle, but I wasn't willing to go there. On one occasion, I subscribed up to NetGalley and got a free ebook that worked very well on my Kindle. But because I was a new member, I didn't have any credentials to get the good books, so I had to get one of the books that was available to everyone. I don't remember the title. It was some sort of thriller, and it was just so bloody awful. I got to about the 3rd chapter, and I kept asking myself, is this book written by AI? Could an author actually write so disinterestedly about a thriller subject? So I never finished that NetGalley book, and I never went back to NetGalley again because I felt that if I'm requesting free books, I really have to review them. And I was not going to review that free book. And I was not willing to try another free book that was available to everyone. And I've never received a free copy of a print edition of a book. Someday, maybe I'll ask for one. But in all honesty, I have so many books that I already own, either in print, for my Kindle, or on Audible, that I don't need to ask for free books. I'm well off enough that I can just go buy the books that I want and not have to beg authors to give me free copies so I can review them. I just won't do that. Prompt number 6. Do you review every book you read? Are there any reasons that you might read a book but choose not to review it? For a while, I was doing wrap-up videos every week, giving a very short and concise opinion about the books that I read. Those wrap-up videos weren't really watched very much, very low viewership, and I didn't feel like I was adding much by trying to give an opinion about every book that I have read. I do, on occasion, do a full review on a book dedicated to single books. But again, BookTube is just not a place for those kind of reviews, or at least the kind of books that I read, because I read mostly older books, and the videos or booktubers who are very successful with their book reviewing tend to review newer releases that are hot in the market at that time. So I don't actually do a whole lot of reviewing of individual books right now. As I said, not even in the wrap-up videos. Maybe I will change that in the future. I kind of miss the wrap-up videos, so there's a record of everything I've read. It's just that, is it worth my time to make those kinds of videos? I don't know. Prompt number 7. How do you feel about the fact that many people now primarily consume book reviews by hobbyists on BookTube rather than professional critics? What is lost? What is gained? Well, professional book critics are part of a business, a profit-based business. So they have to make their reviews based on what the editors, the paper, or the magazine thinks will sell more copies. And are those really the types of books that I want to read? Now, I don't want to dismiss all book critics in that way, being basically money hounds, because I'm sure there are many dedicated professional book critics who can review the books that they want in the way that they want. But in many ways, I think the reviews or the opinions of the so-called hobbyists may actually be a better way to learn about books, because the hobbyist is not bound to any business. They are doing something that they want to do because they like doing it. And they will give you an opinion of a book that I think is very honest and not tied to any sort of a profit or business model. So I kind of like that. Now, that said, some hobbyists on BookTube probably are getting into that range of being professional critics because their channels are monetized, and maybe they're focusing their book choices on that monetization. That's why many BookTubers don't want to monetize their channel because they feel like they don't want that pressure of what books they can read, how they review them. Now, to be all honest, I am monetized on my channel. I only make, a little bit of money, and that really does not influence my opinions because if all those payments stopped, I would not be worried about the lack of revenue. I would still continue on because I like doing this. It's fun. It's what I'm doing in retirement. I'm keeping myself entertained. And now I'm tagging the following: MJ, Reading This Life; Alan, Big Hard Books and Classics; Gavin, Genre Books; Gareth, Book Songs and Other Magic; Scott, The Wild Digest; Richard, Vintage SF. And if you're watching this video and you've gotten to the end and you're interested in telling people about what roles you play on BookTube, consider yourself tagged. Thank you for watching and keep on reading.